Changing Attitudes, segment 15. Okay? And it's just as important as the previous session. To change our beliefs, we need to find out support for them. We need to read some good material, some positive material, and we have to pony up to the bar with a good reason why we want and expect to establish an improved belief. We have to do this because our ego won't let us change a belief. People don't understand how powerful the ego is. In our consciousness, we have various elements. We have subconscious, we have unconscious, we have intuition. Among a few of them, we have ego. And of all those I've named, only the ego knows itself as existing. It cares about itself. So, of course, non-ego, it hates change, dislikes it. Don't change anything, Roger. I like it the way it is. And that's a fact. So when we want to establish a new belief, we have to hammer it away in our thinking, in our contemplating, in our affirmations that we're saying, we're repeating a bunch of times, and morning and evening, what our new belief is. Regarding beliefs, we don't see what's going on in our lives. We don't see that our beliefs or our events center on our beliefs. And I want you to think deeply on this. Events affect our beliefs. Well, actually, they don't affect our beliefs, they fulfill our beliefs. Therefore, beliefs fulfill themselves. You can count on that. To create new beliefs, we have to use determination. Because, as I said, we got to get past the ego. But changing a belief takes time. That's a factor. Time is part of our world. It's not like our nightly dream world where we can change a thought and everything around us suddenly changes also. By the time something changes in our lives, we forget what we thought back then. What went on in our thinking. And that's what I want you to also consider. So you see something going on in your life, try to figure out what you had to do with its creation. What were you thinking back then? An ailment can occur today, but it really started its beginning days ago or a few weeks ago. So don't look unless you tripped over something and that gives you an ailment like a twisted ankle. Well, yeah, that happened today. But again, why did it happen? The reason behind that occurred some days ago. Maybe you were not feeling steady in your life. Maybe you were not feeling self-supported. There's always a thought. I better say, condition that. There is usually a thought that brings about an ailment. Okay. You just keep in mind what events in your life were due to what you are thinking or what your beliefs are. I want you, if you're going to really seriously try to change your belief thinking thoughts, I want you to list what beliefs you have. And I bet you have pages and pages of them. So, but write them down. And don't be judgmental, just list them, whatever comes to your mind. And if there's a belief that has to do with health, put an A beside there. And if something else says, my teeth are good shape, put an A beside it because it deals with health. If it's, I have a lot of friends, put a B there. I get along with people, put a B beside that because those beliefs relate to one another. Okay? And then later on, you can prioritize. You don't have to change all your beliefs. That will take forever. But take, say, 4 or 5 that are detrimental and work on them. And one at a time. And not one at a time in one day. One at a time this week, one at a time next week of another one. Prioritize. When naming a new belief, don't say, I don't want an illness. Say, I believe in my body's ability to remain its health. Because we don't want to talk about what we're lacking. We want to talk about what it is we expect. Because, as I said earlier or previously, beliefs are expectations. And talking about that, there's a story in the Old Testament of the Bible, and I like it. Farmers, where they had their fields, were suffering, their gardens were suffering a drought. So they went to visit the prophet Elijah. And they told Elijah, can you make rain for us? Our fields are dry as a bone. So he said, okay, fine. A week later, the farmers were complaining that no rain came. So they go back to Elijah and tell him. And Elijah thinks, well, why not? I wonder why not. Let me come back to your fields and see. So he looked over the area of these farmers whose fields were miles away. And he says, no wonder you didn't get rain. You didn't build the trenches to collect it. That's exactly what we have to do. When we ask for something, then expect it and prepare ourselves for it. Okay? Like if we want to get a new job, we're going to go to somebody's office and put our request for it. But before we go, we're going to dress up properly, aren't we? We prepare to get a result. I want you to know this. Our beliefs are behind everything in our lives. Everything. To know ourselves, we must know our beliefs. And although I'm putting a lot of information together here, and I can give much more, I want you to, again, go through my segment 13 or 14 and 15 and pick up what you want to deal with at the time you're reviewing this video, okay? And then go back over it again and go back over it again. If we want to bring change, we have to know some of the rules that will bring it into being. And we have to practice them, and we have to consider, what am I leaving out? Did I think of everything I should think of? And remember Mark Twain and figure out why you were born. Okay. All the best, and thank you for viewing my segments. Bye-bye now.